My God, I miss doing this show. I love Illuva Talks, and so do you, because we bring super geniuses on here to tell you all about what's going to happen in the blockchain, NFT, and gaming industries. And this episode is no exception. This show is back, baby. And I've got two of my favorite guests here to talk about the intersection of NFTs, gaming, and to go over all those predictions for 2023. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the future of NFTs, my friends. Our guests, Seatin and Volkin, will go over with me our 2023 NFT predictions, our 2023 gaming predictions, and talk about how these two technologies will converge or not in the future, and go over the details of those. I've got infinity numbers, and I guarantee you will learn at least two brand new things in this episode or your money back. And of course, this is not financial advice. Maybe it's a part of your research. Awesome. Good for you for going out there and learning about new emerging technologies. But nothing we talk about today is financial advice. I mean, you sure as hell should not take financial advice from me. That's for sure. I was talking with these guys about how bad we are with our money. Our first guest is Volkin, content creator and kind of one of the faces of the Illuvium influencer community. Volkin, come on in here, buddy. What's up?
Hey, mate. Thanks for having us on again. It's always a good time.
Indeed.
Good to see you again. It's been a bit of a holiday period, and it's good to get back into it.
Indeed. Yes, it is. And I'm really excited. So at the beginning of 2023, I'm bringing back all of my favorite guests from 2022. Obviously, you're one of them. And he's Seatin. I wanted to bring back. He refused to come on. I heard some story about how he's playing World of Warcraft in his mom's basement or something. What's going on here, man? Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. That was an incredibly generous intro. I think you might have your guests mistaken with the super geniuses. We're a couple of gacha-addicted gamblers, but I think we're gonna have a fun chat today.
I think we are as well. So Seatin is a professional content creator, creating mobile gaming content and obviously tapping into emerging technologies as well. And he does a lot more than he lets on. And he's a really smart guy, which is why I'm bringing you guys in here to talk about these really important topics that we're discussing. So let's get into number one, what our NFT predictions are for 2023. And so in order for us to go over this, I want to know from you guys what you think your top NFT trends for 2023 are. First, let's take a look at the facts of what's out there. Let's look at the lay of the land, if you will, in terms of NFTs. And right now, as far as NFT collections, all-time, Axie Infinity, CryptoPunks, Bored Ape Yacht Club, Mutant Ape Yacht Club, etc., were those top projects of all time. But if you look at the last 30 days, you're going to see some different names hitting the list. And for the most part, we're seeing Bored Ape Yacht Club and anything related to an ape being toward the top of the list. But some surprise drops came along the way, such as Trump's collection on Polygon. Interesting, just facts, not opinion. And if you look at how NFTs have been trending from last year to this year, if the beginning of last year, January 2022, is a 100, that's the total search volume here on Google Chrome. Today, the search volume is down 90% in terms of non-fungible tokens. So the trend has been going down. Some projects have been going up or down along the way. But for the most part, interest in NFTs has decreased by 90%. Yikes. So what are your big trends? Going over to Seatin, what are your big trends for 2023 that you see in the NFT space?
Cool. Well, I thought my kind of framework for like the general NFT initial like wave one, which was profile pictures, right? It was the profile picture craze. I always kind of viewed NFT collections as guilds. And when you were in like a certain community, there was like so much alpha and so much information about kind of new and emerging projects. And when the market was like shit hot last summer and like so much stuff was just going absolutely crazy, being in any one of these communities or guilds was like an absolute gold mine of information. So I really saw the value in why people were constantly trying to rise through the ranks, because they were playing the wider meta game of crypto, which is, find stuff, be early to it, catch that massive 100x pump and, ride your Lambo into the sunset. But now we're in liquidity conditions that are just absolutely dire. Everybody is giga wrecked down the bottom. And those like that's kind of dead and very stale, I would say. However, there are a few communities that are still outstanding and still kind of memeing through it. The pudgy penguins are very amusing to kind of watch all the banter and stuff that they get up to. But generally speaking, like, I think phase one is over. The profile pic collections are pretty washed up, and I think we're kind of hopefully moving on to the next stage of what NFTs are, which is like nobody actually cares about the fact that they're NFTs. They care about like the actual thing and what that thing does. And that is a huge that's the big unlock. The big unlock for NFTs is like nobody fucking gives a shit about NFTs. They give a shit about specific digital items, and that's really hard to convey unless it has a specific context. Like I can say that, I paid or opened like $10,000 worth of crystals in Marvel Contest of Champions to try and get a 6-star version of Doctor Doom. And
You're
anybody that
insane, but please
doesn't
continue.
doesn't understand the context of Marvel Contest of Champions, you can be like, you're a fucking idiot. The people that do, also you're a fucking idiot. But like they at least understand the value proposition of what a 6-star Doctor Doom does in terms of its utility and functionality. And the problem with NFTs as a subgenre or genre is that, like, you just look at the monkey JPEG, right? That's it. You're like monkey JPEG, like what was it, like $500,000 earlier this year, like 100 grand, close to now, and people are like, oh, it's just a monkey JPEG. They don't understand the the club and social culture, and also for 99.99% of people on the planet, they just don't care about being part of that. They're like, okay, do I want a monkey JPEG that lets me go to a nice party in New York and network with all these people on Discord, or do I want to be able to afford food? And people often they seem to gravitate toward food and stable life choices.
Weird.
It's so peculiar, but you kind of put down like how should people be thinking about NFTs?
Well, hold on. I'm going to put you on the spot, bro.
Sorry.
If
I'll
you're
go
going to
for it.
choose one, you set a nice landscape of kind of where we came from in 2022, how things are evolving now, and where people's heads are at. They're short on cash. The craze is over. It's utility moving forward. What's that one trend you see happening in 2023? If you had to pick one live right now, what is the one trend you're looking at for 2023?
Well, I hopium want to say gaming because like I completely understand gaming. It makes sense. Whether or not gaming actually is the trend of the year depends on whether or not game developers and these project developers can actually meet their roadmaps and ship the projects. Because that's the second problem that we have from last year is that all the roadmaps were memes for like every single project out there. Nobody got close to their timelines, and I think there's like two differences. There's people that missed their timelines because they just couldn't execute. They just had no idea what to do. They weren't capable of building. They didn't have the work ethic to build. And then you have stuff like Illuvium, which is why I'm still confident in Illuvium, where they said, you know what we're aiming to do is like it's not going to cut the mustard. It's going to be Axie Infinity, but it's not going to compete with the rest of the gaming market, the rest of the market for human attention, which is, the market that you need to go after. You want to make actual products that compete with the standard that people already have and surpass them, and then also kind of layer on this stuff, which hopefully is going to give people a bit of a better experience. But we're still in an industry where everything is very unproven and very untested. But at the same time, I'm very excited to see how it all plays out. I think there's going to be some really good stuff that we just don't expect, and some really bad stuff. So I want to say hopium gaming, but I think secondary there's going to be some sort of like AI related Ponzi bubble. So
AI Ponzi Bubble. Interesting.
AI Ponzi bubble would be my bet, because like everybody's circle jerking AI at the moment. Like we know what crypto does, man. We know what crypto Twitter does, and all the degens and Telegram. So AI Ponzi bubble is my prediction.
AI Ponzi Bubble is a really good one. We're going to talk about, I've got some data on the intersection of AI, NFTs, Metaverse, and which trends to talk about later in our third section of the episode. I got to put Volkin on the spot, though. What's your one big NFT trend for 2023 you see happening?
All right. So the first thing with the AI Ponzi bubble, I just had to mention the funny thing. This was on Twitter a while ago, where everyone was doing those things where you upload your face and you get like the different image. And I think I saw Rich Dick King's post about all the permissions it was taking. So like, if you're doing that stuff, check the permissions that you're giving away when you do that stuff. But
It
for
has
me,
access
like,
to all of your photos, your name, your email, and all sorts of things, your app activity. It's disgusting.
yeah. So just they're funny for Twitter, but don't do it. Would be my suggestion. But yeah, for me, like I'm sort of similar to Seatin. I was never into the JPEG craze. Like I'm that person that's like I'm like the less crypto type person. So I remember having chats with Seatin back in last year when everything was going off, and I'm just like, or was that even the year before now? Dude, that was a long time
It was
ago.
the year before. Last year was the bad year. It was the year before that was the good year.
Yeah, 2021. Yeah,
2021 was the year when everything popped off. Yeah.
But he was getting into like just all the JPEG stuff, and I'm like, dude, I can't even motivate myself to like look at this stuff because it's just not exciting. So I definitely think whatever the craze is going to be utility based. But I'd almost go as far to say that there probably, I don't know if there even will be something big come from it this year, depending on like the global economy and stuff like that. We'll have to see where that all goes. But I feel like crypto's heavily involved in that. Now, gaming does have the chance to actually do something. But the problem with gaming and trying to get it to take off this year is the fact that crypto in the general gaming space is still very frowned upon. So for it to take a massive hold, is going to be hard this year. We'll see how it goes. But I definitely think if I had to say something, it would still be gaming or the AI Ponzi. But yeah, I'd still look at gaming. But it's like if it's ready in 2023, not just ready as in the games are ready as in the players are ready to come into it.
Well, let's have a look at a little bit of data here. Since you guys are both talking about the AI Ponzi, let's take a look at how search is going. This is beginning of last year into this year. The blue line is non-fungible token as a topic, and the red line is AI. So as we can see, there was an inflection point last year in February 2022 where NFTs went out of favor and then AI became in favor. And now as we move forward in the timeline, we can see that AI continues to trend up, whereas NFTs continue to trend down. And so if we're talking about a bubble, obviously increasing demand obviously facilitates the conditions for an AI bubble. That's a really interesting take, guys. I personally have been experiencing sleepless nights. I'm not joking right now, using ChatGPT, Quillbot, Descript, and using AI technologies myself because I see a massive opportunity for marketing, business, and a huge disruption here. Even just today, that makes things like writers useless. It's just overnight, this technology just puts entire classes of white-collar professionals out of a job like that. And so this is really exciting. But when people say things like that, like I'm saying, writers are now out of business, that creates a speculative frenzy about the technology and creates a bubble because it's not actually that good yet. It's really interesting that you bring that up. Yeah. So let's talk about the difference.
I just wanted to extend on that because I got a couple mates that are artists. And like it's a big thing going on in the artist community at the moment because of like the AIs that are just going to their, I forgot what the name of the place is where all the artists put their portfolio so people can hire them and stuff like that. And the developers, some of the AIs are just going and taking all those images, chucking them into the AI, and then basically the AIs can produce similar type work to what they are. And there's big controversies going on in that type of thing because it's doing the exact same thing as, like you said, with writing, where it's just sort of the speed and cost effectiveness of when it actually gets up and running properly is just ridiculous. So it's just something interesting to watch.
It is interesting. And there's a comment here from Jim Barino saying AI doesn't super specifically translate into the market like NFTs, in all fairness. Not sure if that's a good argument. I'd like to give you this thought. The AI is so good at writing. Some people, there's a Twitter employee that didn't do any work. I don't know if you guys heard this story for 2 weeks. and it just asked ChatGPT to provide a work summary of everything that it should have done as a senior developer at Twitter, and then it gave them the work that they should have done. Then it asked him to summarize a daily report to provide their boss, and the AI gave them that daily report to provide his boss, and he sent it over. And then he asked the AI to actually write the code for Twitter that would actually work and do the job that he hypothetically should be doing at Twitter as a developer, and it wrote functional Twitter code, and he submitted that to his boss. So this is a story we've heard. Is it completely true or not? Well, there's other examples of people just live in a YouTube video, just telling ChatGPT to create them a mobile game, create them a website, write code in this language or that language. And in some cases, it writes fully functional code, and in other cases, it does not. So the point is, that's where we're already at with this technology. So if you're wondering, how could this intersect with NFTs? You just ask the AI, give me the best idea for 10 top NFT collections. Write me the code for a website to create that NFT collection. Create me all of the email copy from my website to market that NFT collection. You go to the AI-generated image software, create 100 NFTs for me with these attributes. All of a sudden, the AI's done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of manual human work in like maybe 1 hour of your time if you know how to use the AI. That's how this shit crosses over. Seatin, what do you see this speculative AI bubble maybe looking like? I just gave some facts just to maybe educate everybody on where we're at with this, but where do you see the bubble going here? Is it something like what I'm describing or something else?
No idea. I mean, the Metaverse bubble was like fucking absurd last year. I mean, there was just like bullshit white papers, no fundamentals. They just you find what the meta is on buzzwords, and it's like Metaverse, land, NFTs, and you just like cram that all into a white paper, get like a nicely designed website, vaguely promise some stuff, write a roadmap that seems like you're gonna accomplish a lot of stuff, and then all those projects get rugged about 2 weeks later. So that's just generally the way that the Metaverse one played out. But
so the AI then could assist in creating what looks like credible projects, because it would normally require a massive amount of human effort or a large amount of human effort to create a decent white paper, a website, and all these things. But you could just tell the AI to make all of that for you, and then one scammer could pull off what would maybe require a lot more effort. So the bar of pulling off scams comes down as AI rises. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, that's also definitely another way to look and think about it. I mean, we're gonna need to. It's just going to be impossible, because this is the worst that AI is ever going to be, and it's really, really scary right now. I kind of share your concerns there, Andrew. And it's just going to get to the point where you have absolutely no idea. And this might take a while, because there's also going to be, again, better video stuff, better image stuff coming, where not only can all of this stuff be faked to the most convincing level for whatever the current meta is in the market, but then all the following around it could potentially be fake generated as well. You can have fake influencers that hype up the projects, all of these. I mean, you see already with like certain projects, they, have all these fake bot accounts, but also then being able to make those bot accounts dynamic and intelligent, because it's very obvious at the moment when projects are bot ones. And I think just general like crypto market navigation, which is why like I think projects like Illuvium need to just focus on being the best possible game, having the best possible experience, and onboarding people that way, like directly through the game, directly through the products, because this stuff is going to get messy. It's going to get really, really messy, at least in my
Interesting. So let me ask you this. Let's switch then to focus on NFTs. There were some changes in marketplaces when we looked at NFT market from 2022 moving into 2023. And I want to ask you guys what kind of impact this might have on the NFT space. So a couple facts, and then I'm going to kick it over to you, Volkin. So a couple facts here. When we look at the all-time statistics in terms of NFT marketplaces on DApp Radar, obviously OpenSea is number 1, Axie Marketplace number 2, CryptoPunks, Magic Eden, Looks Rare, and others, all time. But when we move to the past 30 days, you're going to see New names popping up on the list, moving up the list, Blur being one of those, moving up the list in a significant way, and also things like Immutable X Marketplace busting into this top of the list here. Some changes in terms of where people are transacting NFTs. And the platform I mentioned, Blur, it's so degen. It's so NFT degen. If we look at it, it's the most degen website I've ever seen. But it's designed specifically to appeal to those more sophisticated and advanced NFT traders. So the reason why I bring this up is how do the marketplaces play in to how NFTs evolve and how we interact with NFTs here in 2023? Volkin, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, when we look at like the concept that we're thinking of, where like for me, like I think like the general just JPEG thing is going to definitely not pick up to where it was before. Who knows? It might. But if I'm looking at what I think and I'm like, okay, I want utility, I want gaming, because I never got into the JPEG craze, then I'd think it's wherever the popular games are trading their NFTs. So that would be like Immutable and stuff like that, because if that's where that's housed. So I think it's what'll be interesting as well is as more uses for crypto develop, like more of the DeFi stuff and that sort of stuff. Now, if you start having NFTs for different ownership of actual like assets, that would be an interesting one to see where it goes. But as for that, I think you're just going to have it sitting pretty similar, whereas like your open season stuff like that, while it's still primarily a JPEG meta, and then it'll eventually evolve to where the functional NFTs are being traded. That's sort of the way I see it.
What do you see being the marketplace factor or changes or trends, Seatin, in 2023? Do the marketplaces matter, or are they just a vehicle for the technology to get to people? What do you think?
It kind of depends. Again, NFTs like a very broad spectrum of digital assets on the wing, and I think still one of the most eye-catching things about that is that like Axie is still up there really significantly overall. So I think generally when buying a product, people know exactly where they want to go, and I think gamers will buy from the stores related to their game. Like I see a lot of the Illuvium transactions. At least in theory, for newer people entering the system, are probably going to be on the Illuvidex, because that's going to be, this amazingly fluid and feels very trustworthy. It's, got the same branding, the same feel as the rest of the game as well. But again, for the other marketplaces, I think it's just going to be a case of like whatever has the best user experience, has all of the best features. Can I sweep, 50 NFTs in a single transaction? Does it cut down the cost? Can I avoid paying royalties? And also the marketplace that can kind of get all of the chains as well, because that is a limitation. You want to be able to, work with every single blockchain out there and not have to go for Magic Eden, for Solana NFTs, and OpenSea and Immutable X for Layer 2 NFTs. You just want everything in a convenient place.
That makes sense. Okay. We have to talk about the gaming industry next, because the Convergence, so we're hoping, sounds like in general, we're agreeing with each other that we hope that NFTs in the gaming industry are going to trend in 2023, because it's all about the utility first and then the NFT second, as opposed to the trend that we saw in 2022. In my opinion, I think the big shift here is in 2021, when NFTs popped off, moving into 2022 a little bit, it was all about, I'm going to sell you this NFT first, and then it'll have utility second. I think we can probably all agree, and let me know if you disagree. In 2023, that paradigm has shifted. Here's the utility first. So they're not going to pitch it as an NFT. It's going to be, here's a video game, here's an item, here's a piece of real estate, here's something with utility first, and it just happens to be an NFT. Do you think that that's the big paradigm shift that's happening as we move from 2022 into 2023? Would you guys agree with that or disagree with that?
Yeah, I'd say it already started happening in 2022.
Yeah, I would say like that's it. I always replace the word NFT with just digital asset. And that's exactly how it works in mobile games or any other game, And that's been the top meta for a while, is you get people free to play. The game, they come in, they experience the game, they have a really good time, and maybe they want to, buy a stronger character or, upgrade their stuff, but they've already kind of got a foot in the world. They understand the value of it, the utility of it, because they've had a chance to kind of play in the environment in which it's used, and they kind of know what they're getting, or can get a pretty good idea of what to expect if they are going to like open crystals or bundles or pull on a gacha banner or something like that. But it's just again, it's just going back to the gaming meta, which is free to play games. You get people through the door. 90% of people aren't really that interested or don't play for that long, and 10% of people get absolutely hooked. And then out of that, 0.1% are just massive people with disposable income and spend ridiculous amounts of money.
Yeah, you get everyone in the door free to play, and then day one, Seatin has a $10,000 summons video.
That's it. Man, this guy's crazy. I love it so much. He sees the value. He sees it. Really quick, we're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Illuvium. Let these guys take a sip of that glass of water. Quick 2-minute video. It's the perfect segue because we just talked about 2023 NFT trends. Illuvium sold $72 million in land NFTs last year, and now we have Illuvium Zero, the utility where you can actually play a video game with your NFT. Check out this 2-minute video about it, and we'll be right back to discuss our predictions for the gaming industry in 2023.
Luvium is building the world's first interoperable blockchain games, including Illuvium Overworld, Arena, and Zero, where you can play and own your assets across multiple video games. Illuvium Zero is a free-to-play industrial building game available on mobile, PC, and Mac. Players build their own virtual industrial complex to collect essential elements, precious fuel, and unique blueprints on Illuvium land. Elements are necessary to build futuristic structures in Illuvium Zero that produce highly sought-after resources. Fuel enables players to explore our fantastical Illuvium overworld and collect our iconic Illuvials. Blueprints unlock the ability to produce eye-popping skins that are utilized in other Illuvium games. These groundbreaking connections to Illuvium land represent the first time gamers can play a video game that deeply impacts how they play another video game. A simple yet profound innovation. Free-to-play players can fully experience Illuvium Zero's strategic gameplay, yet they will not be able to collect revenue-generating assets. Illuvium landowners, on the other hand, can trade your fuel, blueprints, and elements on the Illuvidex, our official market exchange, for revenue, or use them to play our other games. The choice is yours. To learn more about Illuvium Zero, go to play.illuvium.io/zero.
Thank you so much to Illuvium for sponsoring this show. It's a joke, by the way. I don't know. It's not even funny.
They've got a sexy voiceover guy, whatever that is.
Yeah, he is attractive. He is very attractive, voice-wise. Guys, just go to play.illuvium.io/zero. Landowners are currently playing the alpha and going bananas, just diving into all the strategies here in this video game. I'm really excited about it. Wanted to share that with all of you. Let's talk about games. So NFTs are fun to talk about, but the gaming industry at large is really the much larger enchilada here. It's the much larger piece. So let's just quickly, as always, my friends, look at some facts about what's happening in the gaming industry, and then we can talk about where we think it's going to go. So fact number one, my friends, and this is a huge story, is the acquisition trend. There's a proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard by Microsoft right now, currently going through litigation, and there's a consolidation in the gaming industry. Companies such as Ubisoft and Square Enix have yet to be acquired. And so the trend that I'm seeing here in 2022 is the consolidation of the traditional gaming industry as they consolidate under Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, and some other players are making some moves as well. So I want to ask you guys, given that sort of backdrop of what happened last year, what do you see being the top gaming industry trends? Let's just make you choose one. the top gaming industry trend in 2023. Seatin, what do you think it's going to be?
Oh, goodness. Big only focus on mobile trend that I see is like IP is everything. And I think the most significant thing that happened in the last decade and a bit was the acquisition of Marvel and Star Wars by Disney. And the fact that they just got, like, you look at the amount they paid for that intellectual property and then what they've turned it into now is ridiculous. And I really feel like that's funneling so much currently through the mobile gaming market. Like, big IP games are just going crazy. People are trying as well to develop their own IPs, and stuff like Genshin obviously is just an absolute worldwide hysteria. It's crazy. So yeah, I feel like IP is a really, really big thing. So that would be my trend. In terms of like genre of game, it just everything still seems a little bit diverse. I feel like MMORPGs are on a little bit of an upswing. I think people are pretty happy with World of Warcraft, Dragonflight, and enjoying that. But yeah, those are just some of my thoughts. But I'm not paying too much attention to the consoles.
Well, let me do a follow-up with you on that. So you pay close attention to the mobile gaming industry, and mobile gaming continues to dominate and grow in terms of revenue. Now, there was a bit of a dip in 2022 with revenue growth, but it continues to be the driver of the gaming industry at large. So do you see mobile gaming continuing to be that big revenue driver in 2023?
Oh
Or
yeah, 100%. I mean, the dips I didn't believe was too much, right? It was only like 5.3% or something like that, and the chart going up is crazy. Like it's yeah, it's nearly a vertical line over like a 10-year time period or something. So yeah, the thing is, like, mobile fundamentally is the most widely distributed console in the world. Like, every single person has or will have a mobile phone at some point. Well, not every single person, but the wider majority. Like, there's no way you can see stuff in like lockdown. There were issues trying to get Nintendo Switches, PlayStations, but mobile phones, they're constantly getting significantly better every few years. And then the previous one, which is still really, really good by any sort of historical standard, are just getting filtered down. They're becoming a lot cheaper to buy secondhand. They get passed down from relatives. So yeah, everybody already has kind of like a mega gaming console in their pocket. But like, what are they going to have in like 5-10 years time? Is going to be absolutely ridiculous. I think mobile is one of those things that it's kind of the point where the consumer's like very comfy at the moment. People are very comfy, like just staring at a screen in their hand. So I'm kind of interested because I remember listening to another Luvium talks where you're talking about kind of the augmentation, having kind of glasses layered on it. Obviously, this is going to be a little bit in the future, but I do think that is eventually going to come when it gets to a level where it's kind of really smooth and doesn't feel intrusive, and the user interface feels really, really good on it. But it's going to take that one product. But I say for the foreseeable future, like, I don't see anything replacing the kind of patterns, daily patterns that people have with their mobile phone device. Like, it's just way too powerful.
Well, the revenue doesn't lie, and it agrees with you for 2022, with mobile games accounting for $92 billion in revenue, console only $51 billion, PC $38 billion, and then browser games $2 billion. And so this mix continues to move toward whatever the next big platform is, essentially. And so it took 10 years, essentially, for mobile games to rise as the king of the gaming industry. You started teasing out maybe some AR, VR, headsets, goggles, glasses type of platform ideas there. Do you think that we're going to see any of those sorts of emergent platforms become a thing in 2023? There are rumors out there that, Apple might drop Apple glasses or something, and who knows, it could hook into your brain or some wild theories. Do you think that that's happening in 2023, or nah?
I feel like it might still be again, it's one of those things I didn't I got such a level too, where you don't need the stand anymore, or the sensor, until like a couple of years back. And I put that on, I was like, wow, this thing's just got cameras all the way around. They can kind of scan my environment. Like, that impressed me quite a bit. So like, the thing is, like, we as consumers, we don't really know until there's the keynote, the presentation, the marketing campaign for this. We don't know where the tech is behind the scenes. So I wouldn't say we're too far off it, but I think one trend that I'm going to call for like the next 10 years is that we see potentially a consolidation of like consoles, so PlayStation, Xbox, into the mobile experience. I don't know if those come with like a PlayStation phone, but I think the actual box that you have is becoming somewhat irrelevant. Like you needed it for like the power source, you needed it to pair your controllers to, you needed to plug it in the TV, and I think all of that stuff you can now do with a mobile phone at the current technology. But I think somebody's gonna hyper optimize it, and you have it a certain extent with the Switch, but like that trend I think is very much going to continue, where mobile is just going to end up absorbing everything, because mobile phones in let's say 5 years time are going to be significantly more powerful than PlayStation 5.
Makes sense. And with innovations like M1 chip at Apple, that enables these low heat, low power, ultra powerful processing to be in play for gaming or for any application. Volkin, what's your top trend for the gaming industry in 2023?
Yeah, so extending on what Seatin said, it's like, because you're already seeing it is cross-platform. Like when you look at those revenues, it's like mobile is so big, but mobile games as they release, like I'm like Seatin, I'm biased towards mobile. That's what I pay more attention to. But a lot of the mobile revenue is coming from people playing PC as well, because they're making them all cross-platform. And what Seatin said at the end there with it absorbing, I still find it crazy that we still have competition between Xbox and PlayStation when there's only really a few titles that separate the two of them that could just be merged into one. It just seems like it just seems like a scam that's still happening. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I could be wrong on that. But yeah, consolidating where it doesn't matter what device you have, you can play the game, whether it be mobile, PC, or a console. Definitely makes sense. As for the trends I'm seeing at the moment, I think like Seatin mentioned Genshin Impact. For those that don't know, like if you look up a trend of Genshin Impact versus like World of Warcraft, it had like a perfect storm of it launched during the COVID stage, so everyone was at home. It was like a Breath of the Wild type game, but on mobile with anime waifus, and it just went ridiculous how big it went. And after that, I saw a lot of the mobile gaming companies specifically creating open world action RPGs, and the amount of open world action RPGs I'm seeing coming this year is ridiculous as trying to compete.
Wow, look at this trend on the screen right now. The blue line, this is worldwide Google search. The blue line is Genshin Impact, and this tiny, tiny, tiny little red line down here is World of Warcraft. And literally by the numbers today, Genshin Impact is being sought out through search 10 times more than World of Warcraft, just to back up what you're saying. So is this trending? Yes.
That sounds about right. Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, and that's been going since, like, that game has just gone so solid, and it's built like and this is where community building in your game, and like Seatin spoke about with IP, is going to be huge. Now, existing IPs are going to be easier to tap into a fan base, but it just shows that you can build an IP from scratch that then hits hard, because that game is now more about the IP and the story, and people are just fans of the IP as opposed to the game, because the developers basically came out and said, listen, we're not going to make any end game for this. It's going to be a casual game. Like they've got end game, like they've got proper like gearing systems for games that have end game, but they're like, nah, we're just going to keep it casual and just throw new characters at you and you guys can spend. And people, they do it. So like an IP is huge. But if I had to pick the one trend, like in my field, it's definitely open world action RPGs. It's the majority of what I see coming out. But yeah, and I think, IPs are going to be huge as well.
So I'm seeing the similar trend right now as to what happened in the TV industry in the 90s, moving into the 2000s. So the media companies ended up buying up all the TV stations and TV channels because of their intellectual properties, like you're stating. And then what happened? How did they sell it to you? They ended up selling you, instead of individual channels, they ended up selling you bundles, TV bundles, where you could get 100 channels, 200 channels in one bundle in a subscription revenue type of model. We're seeing the same transition happen right now in the gaming industry, in my opinion, And that's the big trend of 2023. And the biggest example of this, of course, is Xbox Game Pass. And so this ties into what Seatin was talking about a moment ago. You can play video games on every device with Xbox Game Pass. I'm going to sound like a shill for this, but what they're doing is Microsoft's just buying up all the game studios they can, putting it on a subscription revenue service. You can play it on your console, you can play it on your PC, you can play it on your mobile device, you can play it on your browser, and it's all one subscription. And so it's not going to matter anymore whether you have mobile gaming platform, whether you have console gaming platform, whether you have PC gaming platform, or whether you have browser platform. What products like Xbox Game Pass are doing are saying, we've got a product that hits all platforms simultaneously, and we have some of the strongest intellectual properties in the world. So for me, this is my big 2023 trend, is the consolidation of the gaming industry under subscription service bundles like Xbox Game Pass. We've seen it over and over and over again in print media, in radio stations, in television stations, in social media, like when Facebook bought Instagram and the chat service that they purchased as well. And we're seeing it now happen in the gaming industry. For me, that's the big trend of 2023, and it's unstoppable. Why would you buy a video game on one platform when you could just buy a subscription and have every fucking video game on every platform? As a consumer, it makes no sense to buy a video game anymore in that world. So what are your guys' thoughts on that? Do you think
just make sure you disclose the sponsorship, mate? Just that one there, all right?
I think that's the big trend, right? They're just going to keep buying up studios and selling you the freaking subscription.
I mean, it works, and then it'll just throw microtransactions in everything, and then people will rage and spend. I just see microtransactions as too profitable. Like something that I saw with, obviously, like, because loot boxes have been a thing in like PC console gaming for a while now. Like people complaining about loot boxes, but I think companies are starting to see, because like companies chase the money, like the NFT trend with, you know, the big companies saying like Square Enix. I mean, Square Enix actually doubled down on their NFT, which was pretty bold considering a lot of their audience isn't right into it at all. But I think like companies go where the money is, and at the moment microtransactions are too juicy to pass up for them. And so I think that's going to be a heavy thing that comes in as well into a lot of fields that it wasn't previously so big in.
Okay, interesting. Seatin, closing thoughts here on the gaming industry trends. Do you have anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, for like a subscription and Game Pass, I think there's just like lots of different categories of gamers, really. And I think for somebody who wants to experience lots of different stuff, Game Pass is absolutely brilliant. I think there is a pretty strong correlation between people that spend the most money and being hyper focused on a single game. I think that's pretty clear, and I think you could get some really good data from that somewhere. But I think from the mobile gaming market, at least my experience of Wales, we had this guy Marvel Contest of Champions via a 2-week spending event over Christmas. It's like a Christmas, you spend and send gifts to each other. This guy spent $135,000, and he's been playing the game for like 8 years, just completely obsessed with it. But yeah, it is one of those things where I do agree with Volkin. It's like, there are whales out there, that people that want to spend like a crazy amount of money, and still a lot of developers and studios are hyper focusing on milking the whales at the moment, because the way that just financial distribution works in the world is, you get ahead. A lot of these people are, they sold out a business early on. They own like 100,000 properties, and they've just got all of this rent money coming in, and they're sitting there. They don't really have anything to do. So they just, want to entertain themselves with a video game. And there's a surprisingly large amount of people out there in that particular position, which are these mobile gaming whales. They're people that have just, just played the whole financial system, because it is a game. They've played it perfectly, and they just sat there. They've got infinite cash flowing in, and they just want to dump it into something. And I think generally those people like a shared and continuous experience with other people, a social environment, and also a bit of competition as well, because there's always, it's games, it's a bit of fun, bit of banter, a lot of ego at the top as well. And I think all of those natural human things in any sort of competitive environment just very much come out in games, and then are pushed to significant extremities when you do have, infinite spending.
Makes sense. This is a great discussion. Now we have to talk about how all of these technologies may converge on each other in the future. Really quick, if you guys are not already familiar, we released this show as an audio version, so you can hear all these sexy voices from my favorite guests edited up on every single podcast platform in the world. So go to illuvium.buzzsprout.com and just subscribe to the Illuvium podcast on any platform that you want to listen on. And these episodes will come out. You can listen to them on the go, in the gym, and you can get more insights and look at our historical inventory of episodes. We're over 20 episodes at this point with some of the smartest people in the crypto, gaming, and blockchain spaces. All right, let's talk about I think what is the most interesting aspect of the episode today, which is where is the convergence of all these technologies, the intersection of NFTs and mainstream gaming. And so just to go over, there's this really interesting Google Trends chart I want to show everybody. I'm sorry, if you don't like Google Trends, unsubscribe. I love Google Trends. And here's what's interesting, guys. And I'm just going to use this to kind of tee up the kind of facts of where we're at right now in terms of global interest. The blue line is NFTs. The red line is Metaverse. The yellow line is AI. Then we have gaming as green and VR as purple. And generally speaking, when we're looking from last year, 2022 to today, we're seeing the trend of NFTs decreasing by 90%. We see the trend of Metaverse decreasing by basically 90%. But we see the trends of AI and gaming trending up. And those are the yellow and green lines here toward the end. And then we see the trend of VR holding steady in comparison to these other trends. And so I have to ask you guys, is there going to be an intersection of gaming and NFTs, for example, if Metaverse and NFTs are on the decline? Wouldn't the gaming industry want to latch on to whatever the next big thing is? And it looks like the next big thing is AI based on the numbers. So that's my question to kind of tee things off here. When will we see the proper intersection of NFTs and mainstream gaming? And what does the sequence look like for us to get there? Volkin, you're up.
I'd literally just say it's to do with liquidity. Like, it's the global markets is screwed at the moment, and no one cares about risk assets and stuff. So, like, you're not going to get that. Like, so this is the thing. I'm going to get on a bit of a tangent, but it's a funny time for a crypto game at the moment, because a lot of people in crypto aren't spending. They're not, they're a bit more tight-cheeked at the moment because of what's going on. So as a crypto game, it's hard to market to the crypto people because they're just not there as much. And let's face it, most of the people in crypto that were looking at gaming were looking at it to try and make a bag. And then when you look at gaming in the broader gaming space, it's just not accepted. So it's sort of that weird time where the conditions don't allow for it to really take off unless there's a really well-presented application that you don't even know it's happening. So that's where I think Illuvium could do well in their case, because they're just making a good game, which, by the way, we haven't even spoken about it, but the overworld beta is really well done. But yeah, you make a good game and then it's just got this interaction where it's like a mobile game where you spend money and you get stuff in the game, but then you can just sell that. This is the funny thing for me is with NFTs, it's like I think a lot of people who play games don't want to know that it's an NFT or don't care. They just want to be able to sell the shit that they bought when they're done with a game. So I think that would be the big thing, is like, if we can get just a game that you play, you don't even know it's NFTs. You're not trying to hold on to these assets. You're not trying to create a wallet. It's just like you're playing a game. Okay, like I'm playing Pokemon. Okay, I caught a Pidgey. I don't want this Pidgey. Wait, I can get 30 cents for that Pidgey, or I'll take it and then just keep going. That goes towards my next purchase. I feel like that's the process, not create a wallet where we're playing with NFTs. It's the big craze, all that sort of stuff. That's just the way I sort of see it. So I think, yes, we can get that intersection, but not as a blatant, this is the intersection. It's just like a casual, oh, this gaming experience is better because of this, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. It's a great game, a great IP. It's a new feature, let's say, it just kind of slides in on the games that you're already playing as a new fun feature. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Seatin, what is your vision of the intersection of NFTs and mainstream gaming? And what does that sequence look like as we move toward that? Because we are barreling toward it, or maybe not. Google Trends tells us NFTs are dead, bro. So what does that sequence look like where those two things intersect?
Well, I think, that trend of NFTs declining towards zero, if blockchain gaming is truly to be successful, then nobody cares about NFTs, because people don't care about back-end database architecture. And the blockchain is back-end database architecture. NFTs are part of back-end database architecture. They don't care about that. They don't care about the buzzwords. They care about, oh, I've caught, a Charizard or a Pikachu. And, I've got this character on my roster and I can send it to my friends. I can trade it. I can sell it. I can buy some more. It just functions as an item in a video game usually would. So I think the big intersection comes when nobody cares about NFTs or the NFT buzzword and is just purely talking about the game and the characters in the game and the stuff in the game, instead of focusing on back-end database architecture, because consumers don't care about anything on the back end. They don't care if it's programmed in like C# or whatever the programming language is. Like this stuff doesn't matter. Like it just needs to work and be a really, really good and fun experience for people.
Let me ask you then. So we're talking about NFTs, but there's also, there's non-fungible tokens, and then there's fungible tokens. And something came to mind for me, like with Marvel Contest of Champions, that game has an in-game currency, right? And people are buying that,
Yep.
and it only exists in the game, and then it gives you assets that are not NFTs. So
Yep.
I wanted to ask, take a look at this number. I thought it was kind of cool. Only, in my opinion, I was kind of shocked, only 22% of game developers use paid in-game currency to monetize their games. So another way to look at that is 78% of game developers out there do not use paid currency in their games currently. And so the reason why I wanted to bring that up is NFTs being implemented into video games for your items, or maybe your hero in a Marvel Contest of Champions 2.0, that all makes sense. But what are your thoughts on the convergence of, let's say, tokens or tokenomics with mainstream gaming? If currently these studios, 78% of them don't even use phony baloney digital currencies, why would they adopt this more fringe digital currency called crypto? What are your thoughts on that? I'll open the floor to both of you to see if you have an opinion on that.
So I just want to jump in and say my opinion on that is exactly the same as my opinion on NFTs. Like, it's just back-end database architecture. Like, gamers are used to using a currency of some form. And even a lot of those games that don't have like an official cash-based currency will have something like gold or whatever the general currency is that they kind of earn and go around. And if we're looking at, you say 22% do, but there's so many games that are just single player, and like it doesn't really make that much sense to have any sort of currency if you're just going through like a solo experience.
Well,
Like,
tell that to Ubisoft with Assassin's Creed. Boom.
Well, there you go. But again, one of the big allures is kind of the whole social factor when it comes to people spending like a really significant amount of time and money getting stuff, is that they can kind of show that off. But yeah,
But what about the incentive for the game developer? So you're focusing on the customer, which I think is important, but that's only half of the equation. What about the game developer? Is there new incentives for game developers, the mainstream ones, to use in-game currencies if they can leverage crypto technology? Meaning every transaction, they can already take a cut. Let's say they get right now they get 100% of all in-game transactions because you have to buy directly from them. So does it make sense for them to transition out of a model where they get 100% of the in-game currency and instead giving people crypto where maybe they don't get 100%? Is that a disincentive for them to use
definitely don't
crypto
get
versus
100%.
phony baloney gold or diamonds or whatever stupid mobile currency it is for that game? Curious to know what you think.
So just to jump in, I think that is the big thing of blockchain. It allows like a direct relationship between players and the developers. And right now they don't get 100%. It'd be amazing if they did, but you've got walled gardens everywhere. You've got Apple, Google, Sony, Microsoft. Everywhere is like 30%, and that's crazy when you look at some of the revenues that these games are taking in. Something like Genshin has now made like 4 billion, I believe, lifetime grossing. I think you can get up that headline, but most of that is through mobile transactions. So they've probably done about $1.2 billion directly to the App Store that's been taking that 30% tax. Is just absolutely ludicrous. So, that's also one of the things I hope to see in the coming years is that we have some sort of decentralized way of just clicking a link and allowing people to play in like fully immersive like 3D environments and run these amazing games that doesn't funnel directly through the App Store, because that's the biggest problem, and that's potentially the biggest benefit for game developers is that we can cut out middlemen. We can have a direct relationship between players and developers, and I think that's ultimately what both parties want. But there's a lot of challenges, I think, with the base layer of blockchain technology and the fact that nothing's really been battle tested to a really significant level of throughput. But that's like a slightly different conversation there. But direct relationship, I think, is very good.
All right, let me bring go ahead.
I just want to jump in on that one. The thing of the way I see it is when will they start using it? Once they need to see that it's more profitable. Like that's what a business does, and especially business these days, they just want to make money. So once they see that it could be a more profitable model, they'll do it. But I'd say at the moment there's too much risk in doing it for a lot of businesses, and they're all just playing the backseat game to wait and see what happens, because it's like for instance, a mobile game, they make that much money through people just buying it. It's like, okay, if you didn't have to then spend like thousands of dollars to try and get that character that you wanted, and you can just buy it off of someone else who got it, that's a different model. But then on top of that, it changes the whole dynamic, where this is what I've always thought about, like what Illuvium's doing and what the base level of functional crypto games is basically a digital trading card game, but instead of having to play cards, you can play all these different games, because the problem becomes like such a large percentage of players are free to play or very low spending, and they just play it, and whatever they get, that's what they do. But it's like separating those two makes a really fragmented gaming experience. So it's like, one, is it profitable? Two, are we going to keep the players because of this model? And then what model actually works for that? I think those are the things that have to really be considered by the gaming companies before they go, okay, we're going to implement this model. Because it's not just like, okay, we got this shit token in our game that we sell, let's just make that a crypto and we're good to go, because it's the whole fundamentals behind the interactions of the entire game that change when you do that.
Makes sense. I mean, they'll have to, if they implement this technology, they'll have to revolutionize their business models, just like everybody did when mobile gaming came along. People were most sales were literally selling you a video game like you're a caveman for $60. But now, obviously, the majority of revenue isn't that. But it took a while, 10 years or so, for everybody to wake up to that fact and to sniff out that the tides had changed and we had moved toward a freemium world. And so likely it will take another 10 years if the models like Illuvium's using are the future, another 10 years for the mainstream gaming industry to adopt them. Final question, then we need to end the episode, friends. When mainstream gaming adopts NFTs and let's say tokens and just the new model, let's call it, how will that impact the core GameFi industry? So for example, if on Xbox Game Pass, all of these titles, plus they buy Blizzard, they got all the best IPs. Now you get NFTs of Master Chief whatever, of Fallout such and such, Forza Motorsport, Diablo, StarCraft, Pokemon, you name it, Minecraft, it's all NFTs. They have some unified Xbox token, and they're running this model, and they're running this game, and you got the little guy over here, Illuvium, just trying to make our way with the juggernauts using the same technology and the same model. How does that impact the core GameFi industry that's coming up? Seatin, let's kick it over to you. Do these big guys kill the little guys? Is there consolidation? How do you see the mainstream versus core interaction happening in the future?
I think it's all dependent on why gamers are playing certain games. And ultimately, if you want to retain a player base, you need a really fun game. You need a level of depth, and you also need kind of a vision moving forward as well. That's like a really big thing. I believe in a lot of online games that are constantly being updated and developed, because if people are spending money, they don't want to have the thought of like, oh, is there going to be any more updates to this game? They want to know, okay, for the next like year and a half, these are going to be all the monthly updates and stuff. So, I'm buying this character now and I can use it in these 12 different events that are coming over the next year, or all these new modes of gameplay that they're adding in. But fundamentally, yeah, it's just about the games themselves. Like, people are going to play what they enjoy and what is engaging them the most. And, even if they did add in this token ecosystem, it depends. Like if it was great for making money, maybe some people might be interested in that for a while, but the people that enjoy Illuvium more as a game are certainly going to stick around. And maybe Illuvium still has a wider appeal, maybe it doesn't. I think we're going to have to see on that one.
So intellectual property is king, and how well you engage your player base is king. Doesn't matter what happens in mainstream gaming. Is that a fair summary of your position?
Yeah, I think ultimately, like the best games win, because it doesn't matter like that Microsoft have acquired like World of Warcraft or anything. Like, people are still enjoying Genshin Impact the most at the moment, and you can see that by the trend. It's just absolutely dominating it. So people are going to go with the world and game that they resonate with the most, and the one that they're enjoying the most.
Volkin, what's your opinion on this? Will mainstream gaming crush GameFi? Will it matter? How is this going to play out once the big boys come in?
It's the same as I always think with all this stuff. It's like, if it's fun, it'll do well. Like that's a very simplistic way to look at it. But yes, having, your big companies, you got more marketing dollars. It's easy to get the people in the door and find your game. But at the end of the day, if something's good enough, it will get found and it will spread and it will grow. So I just think it's the quality of the game that matters. And that's a very simplistic view, but that's what I have.
Okay, that's interesting. I wanted to bring up one last thing here, and then we're going to go into final thoughts. This is Blizzard Activision's revenue mix over time. And as you can see here in the blue, that's product sales, like them selling normal video games like a caveman. And then the darker blue one is in-game subscription and other revenues. And as you can see, people aren't buying video games in greater numbers anymore, as you can see over time, but they are paying more for in-game subscription and quote-unquote other revenues. For me, these numbers right here are the strongest case that mainstream gaming will need to adopt a new way to drive more in-game subscription and other revenues in the industry, because that's the trend. And what's really interesting here is we're seeing in 2023, I'll go ahead and throw out something that I think pushes the mainstream gaming and the mainstream gaming gamer our direction, is we're probably going to see the standard game price move from $60 to $70 in 2023, and then we'll probably see it move to $80 in 2024. And this is just simply because of inflation. If games were sold in 2005 at $60, with inflation, those games should be $90 today. And since that revenue stream is not growing, these companies have to raise the price of selling individual video games, which is going to push people, I think, further away from wanting to buy individual video games and pushing them further toward those additional revenues. Those revenues, the free-to-play model and the extra monetization. And that's going to get these companies curious to know, now that we can't sell video games anymore, essentially, for $60, $70, $80, then what do we do? they're going to be sniffing out new revenue models. That's what these companies have to do to provide infinite returns to their shareholders. Just my opinion, but I think that this is going to push the consumer toward more microtransactions, and it's going to push these companies toward wanting to adopt things like NFTs, for example, to further monetize their products and increase that revenue. Let's go into final thoughts from the two of you. So I want you to hit me with it, Seatin. What are your final thoughts on these topics? And tell everyone where they can find you.
Oh, well, you can find me Seatin Illuvium, Seatin Marvel Contest of Champions. I also got an anime channel, Seatin Anime, if you want to see a couple of games that we're going to be taking on this year. My final thoughts are like, I'm cautiously optimistic. I feel like if you've been in the crypto gaming space, it's been a really tough time because we've just been flooded with so many people that have really taken advantage of the market and people that are very optimistic about this technology, and so many promises and roadmaps across so many projects have fallen very, very short. But I do believe genuinely there are some good teams, there are some good people building out there, and they're hard to find. They're really difficult to find. But personally, I've played the Illuvium Overworld beta. I've been following this team for a year and a half. Like, I'm a very big fan of our sponsors today, Illuvium. You know, they're so nice to sponsor the podcast, and I think
they are so nice. They are.
If nothing else, I think if you're interested in blockchain gaming, Illuvium are the studio that are going at it hard. They're actually doing stuff and they're working, and I'm excited to see how it all plays out because a lot of this is very uncharted territory. I have no idea about token business models. I've gone very back and forth on them. I'm kind of like a bit negative token at the moment, generally speaking. But that's for another podcast, I think. But yeah, I'm what I like about blockchain technology is just its the direct relationship potential between the people who make the game and the people that want to play the game, and also the fact that you're going to be able to actually own your assets. Stuff in your roster you can give to your friends, you can give to your family members, you can trade, you can buy, you can sell. I think that stuff sounds really cool, and I'm curious to see how it all shakes up. But those are my thoughts.
Volkin, final thoughts, and where can people find you?
Firstly, just answering TSG's question, I would beat Seatin any day. It's not even a question.
Right.
But if you want to find me, Volkin Illuvium, Volkin or Volkin Games, those are my 3 channels. My general recap thoughts is if the game's good, people will play it. Like, I feel like it's as simplified as that is pretty much the way it works. But yeah, if you want to get an understanding for why people spend in the game, make sure you go check out Seatin's channels. He'll show you why. That's definitely sure. I normally play free to play in games because that's the thing I like doing. Although me and Seatin could have some good challenges coming this year in some games if we both play them, and he could drive me into the whaling territory, so we could have some fun there as well. But we'll have to see how it goes, and we'll see who will win, who's got the deeper pockets. But that's about my summary. Thanks for having us on again. And massive shout out to the sponsors.
Oh, shut up. That's my joke. You're taking it from me. Guys, thank you for coming back on the show. I want to bring you back maybe next quarter because I think this is a wild card year. I've been characterizing it for our space. And I think just in general with world markets and economy, nobody seems to know or have a solid idea of what's going to happen this year. So come back on in about a quarter and we'll discuss whatever the next effing crazy thing was that happened in the industry and see how that impacts our outlooks moving forward. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
Perfect. I'm going to boot you guys out of here because we got to end this episode. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Links in the show notes on the podcast version and the description below on YouTube to both Volkin and Seatin's channels. Subscribe today. They're fantastic creators, and we love working with them here at Illuvium. And I'll leave you with a little bit of Illuvium soundtrack music. I told you would get your money back if you didn't learn at least 2 new things in this episode. You did, didn't you? Some of those numbers hit you hard. Some of those insights hit you hard. You know they did. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back next week with another Illuvium showcase, as well as another Illuva Talks with even more genius guests. See you then.